In the summer of 1944, a sense of confidence filled the German High Command as they watched the Allied advance across France. According to their calculations, General Patton's Third Army had pushed too far, too fast. It was now over 400 miles from its coastal supply lines. German General Alfred Jodl believed the situation was clear. An army cannot function without fuel, ammunition, and food. This was a fundamental rule of warfare they had learned firsthand on the Eastern Front. By all military logic, Patton's advance was about to come to a halt. But unfolding on the roads of France was a solution so immense and unorthodox. It was beyond what the Germans could have imagined. It was called the Red Ball Express, a continuous, moving river of supply trucks. Nearly 6,000 vehicles were tasked with an incredible mission to deliver over 12,000 tons of supplies to the front every single day. The concept, laid out by Lieutenant Colonel Laurent Ayres, was to create a dedicated, one-way highway system running non-stop, 20 hours a day. The name Red Ball came from a railway term for a shipment that was given absolute priority. For this operation, that principle was everything. The rules were unlike any military convoy before. The trucks traveled in a constant loop, with headlights on at all times, maintaining an average speed of 35 miles per hour. The heart of this incredible operation was its 23,000 drivers. Remarkably, about 75% of these men were African American soldiers. In an era of segregation, where they were denied equal rights at home, these soldiers became the crucial lifeline for the entire Allied push toward Germany. A unique culture quickly formed along the route. Drivers painted their trucks with names like Patton's Blood Bank and Detroit to Berlin Express. For German reconnaissance units, what they saw was simply incomprehensible. They reported an endless column of vehicles, ignoring all standard military doctrine. One German general, observing the flow, reported back with a sense of awe and alarm. He said, "The enemy operates a supply system beyond our comprehension." He noted that it wasn't military science as they knew it. Instead, it was mass production applied to warfare. The American approach to logistics was fundamentally different. German doctrine focused on conserving resources and careful planning. The American philosophy, however, was to overwhelm any problem with industrial might. They anticipated that trucks would break down and simply had more ready to take their place. This philosophy produced incredible results. In just the first week of operation, the Express delivered nearly 90,000 tons of supplies. The operation was so large that it consumed 300,000 gallons of gasoline each day, for its own trucks more fuel than what was allocated to entire German armies. This was made possible by another secret marvel, Operation Pluto, which involved underwater pipelines pumping fuel directly from Britain to France. When vehicles inevitably broke down, a system of rapid, on-the-spot maintenance took over. Mobile repair units worked along the roadside. The mechanics had a simple but effective rule. If a truck couldn't be fixed in 15 minutes, it was pushed into a ditch to keep the convoy moving. Engines were swapped in under an hour. When bridges were out, drivers would create their own bypasses. It was a system of organized chaos that produced results. The effect of this constant flow of supplies was profound. It allowed Patton's divisions to advance at a pace that seemed impossible to the Germans. In one remarkable instance, on September 1st, an armored division advanced 35 miles, paused for a Red Ball resupply, and then advanced another 32 miles that same afternoon. This kind of sustained movement completely disrupted German defensive plans, which were based on a much slower, more conventional pace of war. Beyond the battlefield, the Express had a deep psychological effect. At night, German soldiers could hear the constant, unending roar of truck engines in the distance. That sound became a weapon in itself, a reminder that while their own supplies were dwindling, the Americans had a seemingly infinite amount more on the way. Field Marshal Walter Model captured the growing sense of German despair. He wrote, "We face not a superior army, but a superior civilization. They waste resources because they have infinite resources. We cannot defeat this with military tactics." Yet, this relentless pace took a heavy toll on the drivers themselves. Many drove 4 days with little to no sleep, aided by stimulants just to stay awake. The conditions were dangerous, and nearly 300 drivers lost their lives during the operation. Despite the hardships, their morale and determination remained high. They understood the historic importance of their mission. With every delivery, they were not only supplying an army, but also challenging the racial ideologies they were fighting against. A captured German officer, Hans von Luck, later acknowledged the impact, saying, "We knew we'd lost when we understood your supply system. You have industrialized warfare beyond our comprehension," he said, admitting that their own military science had no answer for it. As the front lines pushed further east, the system was stretched to its limits. The round trip for a driver now exceeded 700 miles. But just when the Germans thought they had an opening, American ingenuity adapted once more. The express was reorganized with intermediate depots and driver rotation systems. They even began using hundreds of transport planes as a parallel aerial supply line. The crisis that was supposed to stop Patton's army only served to make the Allied logistics system even more robust. In its 82 days of operation, the Red Ball Express delivered over 412,000 tons of supplies. The final numbers told a story of industrial power that defied all European precedents. The Germans had miscalculated America's logistical capacity by a factor of 10. Its success led German commanders to a humbling realization. As Field Marshal Model wrote in his final report, "We were defeated by American trucks." The undeniable success of the operation, driven largely by African American soldiers, also had a lasting impact back home, adding momentum to the eventual desegregation of the US military. In post-war reflections, German generals consistently pointed to the Red Ball Express as a turning point in their understanding of the war. General Franz Halder wrote, "The Red Ball Express proved that logistics determined strategy, not the other way around." Americans understood this. We learned it too late. When Field Marshal Kesselring was asked what surprised him most about the American forces, he answered without hesitation, "Not your tanks, not your planes, but your trucks." He explained, "We were fighting your factories, not just your soldiers. It was a war of production, and one they could not win." Even the French civilians along the route saw the difference. They witnessed American drivers sharing food and supplies, a world away from the German occupation. This simple generosity was a powerful symbol of the abundance fueling the Allied advance and helped to strengthen local resistance. Perhaps the most fitting words came from General George S. Patton, whose army depended on the express. He wrote a powerful tribute to the drivers. He said they deserved as much credit for the defeat of Germany as any combat unit. "Without them, the Third Army doesn't move. Without movement," he continued, "we don't win. They won the war as surely as any rifleman." His words highlight the essential truth of the operation. It was a story of 23,000 men and 6,000 trucks on a one-way highway to victory. They demonstrated that in modern warfare, industrial strength and the ability to supply an army are just as important as battlefield tactics. The German generals who had laughed at American logistics in August found themselves surrendering to armies supplied by it in May. The legacy of the Express continued long after the war. Many of its veterans returned to the United States and helped build the modern American trucking and logistics industry. They applied the lessons learned in France, that with enough volume and speed, you could move not just an army, but the world. The Germans learned the hardest lesson of modern warfare, that while amateurs may talk about tactics, professionals focus on logistics. And on the road to victory, 1944, the sound of America's strength was the roar of 6,000 truck engines that never stopped. One captured German officer, watching the endless convoy, seemed to summarize the entire German defeat when he said, "We prepared for everything... Your tanks, your planes, your ships. We never prepared for your trucks." He then asked, "How do you defeat an enemy who has more trucks than you have soldiers?" The answer to his question was rolling past him at 5-minute intervals, driven by determined men who were quietly rewriting the rules of war, one delivery at a time.